Exercise 2-15 is probably the most complex exercise that you guys are going to be working on this week. And it does introduce a couple of other commands, so what I want to do is go through this one step by step. Now, first of all, we have to understand that in this one we are dealing with several different factors. First is that it's a metric file. So we're going to go to New, Drawing, Open with No Template, Metric. Now that I have a metric drawing, I see that I've got this object, and this object has 12 sides. Well, an object with 12 sides is referred to as a dodecagon. And how do I draw a dodecagon? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the polygon command. Now, if you look up here, this is this draw section of the ribbon. When I click right here to expand this, it's going to give me a bunch of different options. The one that looks like home plate is a polygon. When I click on this, it's going to ask me to enter the number of sides down here in the command line. You're always going to want to pay attention to this command line. And I know that this has 12 sides. Now it wants me to pick the center of the polygon, so I'm going to pick the center of my screen. And now here's where we really got to think back to geometry and try to correlate geometry with design. Do I want this inscribed in the circle or circumscribed about the circle? Well, inscribed in the circle means that the points of the polygon would be inside the circle, whereas circumscribed means that the flats of the polygon would be outside the circle. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a circle over here with 12 sides just to show you the difference. So here we have our polygon with 12 sides. Inscribed, the points of the polygon are inside the circle. Going back to the polygon, this time doing circumscribed, pick the same point. Now the flats run along the outside of the circle. So from a design perspective, if we're given the distance across the points for a polygon, that's going to mean inscribed. If we're given the distance across the flats for a polygon, that means circumscribed. And if you look at the exercise 2-15, it gives me a distance of 180 millimeters from flat to flat. So what that is showing, or what that is going to indicate to me, is that this is going to be a circumscribed polygon. So once again, I'll go to Polygon, 12 sides, pick my center point, it is circumscribed, and I'm going to come up. Now what it's asking for is specify the radius of the circle. So this is something that we really have to think about now. I know that the size of this polygon is 180. So if I had a polygon circumscribed around a 180 millimeter diameter circle, what would the radius of that 180 millimeter circle be? It would be 90. So I'm going to use half of the value of the distance across the flats and type in 90 and hit enter. Now one thing that you may want to do is just click right up here on measure and pick your opposite flats just to make sure you have it drawn at 180 degrees. And it is at 180, so we can go from there. The next thing is this 40 millimeter square in the center of this, and I'm going to go ahead and use the polygon command again to draw that. 4 sides. The center, I'm going to hover over this, don't left click, and I'm going to hover over the midpoint of this, again without left clicking. Then as I move this down, I should get to a point where I have tracking lines that go all the way across my screen. And this is where I have it. So I can left click, it's giving me the distance across the flat, so I know that it's circumscribed. And it would take a 40 millimeter diameter circle to make this polygon, so its radius must be 20. And that's going to give me this. Now I have these 8 holes equally spaced on a diameter 120 circle. So now I'm going to go to circle. And the center point of my circle is just going to be the same as the center points we've been using. And if you look at the command line, it says specify radius of circle or diameter. To get the actual diameter command in here, I need to hit D, enter, and then I can type in 120 for the diameter of the circle. Now I have another circle that rests right on top of this, and it has a diameter of 20. I no longer need this circle, but I'm going to leave it in there for a few minutes just so that I can explain the rest of this assignment. I have 8 of these equally spaced around this circle. That's a pattern. It's an array that we're going to use. This button right here is array. So when I left click this button, I have 2 options, rectangular array and polar array. For this one, I want to select polar. My center point is going to be the center point of this circle. Total number of items is 8, and I want it to go around 360 degrees. Objects, this one. So I now have one object selected, I've got my center point selected, I've got my numbers in. I'm going to use the preview button. When I click preview, it's going to show me a preview of the pattern. That looks good, that's what I want. If it doesn't look right, you hit escape to go back to the dialog box. If it does look right, you right click to accept it. You can then go to the erase command and erase this circle, and what you're left with is exercise 2-15. Exercise 2-17, I'm not going to give you guys a tutorial for because it uses the same concepts that we've talked about in the previous 4 assignments, so you guys should have no problems in actually creating exercise 2-17. Coincidentally, it's also going to be the first exercise we're going to talk about next week. So make sure you guys email me if you have any questions, and watch these videos more than one time if you need to watch these videos more than one time. That's why they're up here on YouTube, is so that you can watch them as many times as you want without actually having to worry about missing something. You can even open it up and open up AutoCAD and go through and do them at the same time, watching a little bit of the video, pausing it, and then going back and trying the same thing in AutoCAD. So once again, just email me if you have any questions.